my name is Amber. Welcome back. We are going to do some watercolor. I'm going to paint this poinsettia. You need a pencil with an eraser, a paintbrush, a napkin, a cup of water, and a watercolor set. Now yours might look different than mine, and that's okay. They'll work just as well. And I have my paper here. So whenever I start a new project or a new drawing, I use the scale and the size of the object I'm drawing and reference it to other parts. So I see here that the flower, the leaves of the poinsettia, they are not bigger than my pot. They're about half the size here and here. So that's how I want to start my drawing. I also want to notice on my plant here that this is pretty even all the way up. It doesn't get wider or fatter, just pretty even all the way up. And you can see it has these little knots on it. So that could be a nice little detail that you add onto it. And as it gets further up, it splits off right here and right here. And you have these leaves, these red and these green leaves that shoot off from it. And on this side, I even have a little flower bud right there. So take a look at the object you want to draw or paint, or you can just imagine something in your mind as well, and that'll work just fine. I'm gonna see where my top of my object is and the bottom, so it's the right size. I also wanna see what's in the foreground and what's in the background. The foreground is whatever is gonna be closest to you that you see. Remember not to press too hard with your pencil, because you won't be able, if you make a mistake or if you choose not to put a line where you drew it out on, it'll be hard to erase it. So you want to keep the pressure of your pencil very light. When you're drawing objects three-dimensionally, you see how I have this line right here of the pot? That means all of these lines need to be the same depth. So I couldn't have a line right here and then have a straight line right here. That wouldn't make sense to the eye. So you want all of these to be the same kind of length. You can also notice light and shadow and kind of mark where maybe you're gonna have a shadow. And I can notice that these leaves have a short stem on them. Put some dirt in here. Also want to notice the veins of the leaves, little lines right here. This is gonna go off the page a little bit. That's okay. I think I have enough information on my paper. So now I'm going to start with the watercolor. So with watercolor, you want to do thin layers. Dip your paintbrush in the water, get it wet. We're going to start with our lightest colors first. I'm going to do a pale green. Now the more water you add, the lighter and thinner it'll be. To get your color more concentrated, just use less water. So most of this is red, but I'm gonna add this thin layer of green. You see how I only dipped it in once? And it's lasting me a good bit. You can always go darker, you just cannot go lighter with watercolor. Start with some red. After you're done and in between colors, you always want to rinse your paintbrush off. You can wipe it on your napkin to get the excess color off. I'm going to dip it back in. Get some more red. I want that a little thinner so I can layer it up. Some of these stems are also red. So I'm just going to go over my leaves in a thin red so I can go back over them after it's dried for a little bit. One of the good things about watercolor is it dries fairly quickly. You don't want to leave too many pencil marks on your paper because once you put the watercolor on, it'll kind of make it a little muddy. There's different ways to paint with watercolor. Some people do not like the pencil lines. Some people do. For me, they do not bother me at all. I kind of like the sketchiness of the line. If you're referencing something, an image, like I'm referencing this plant, remember to always look back at it and see what you're painting, because you might miss something the first time that you didn't notice before, and you will always want to draw what you see, not what you think is there, what's really there. It'll give you a more successful, more thought out, professional looking image. And don't feel rushed, take your time. Poinsettias are a great plant to keep after the holidays. They're fairly easy to grow. I grow mine inside. If they have the correct lighting, they'll grow well outside, but I like keeping mine inside. And that's drying. I don't want my paintbrush too soaking wet, and then I'll just kind of water splash everything. So I want to look back here and see where my darker areas of red are. I'm going to follow the veins. And notice they don't go all the way to the very edge, but kind of curve a little at the end right there. That's dark red. And all those subtle layers at depth. Feel like it's not dark enough, remember you can always just get a little bit and add it to your water here, or just use it straight from your color palette. I'm just lightly applying pressure on the brush. If you notice where you want to make your darkest darks and your lightest lights, so if you see a darker area, you can always add in another darker color. Like there's some really deep reds in here. But if you look closely, it's not all just red. You can see there's some blue in there. I want to make this color a little bit deeper, so I'm just going to add a little blue to my red, which makes a more purplish color. I'm going to add some of that to it. I'm going to start out pretty light though. Looking at my poinsettia, and I need some deeper red, but still making thin layers. You can see through every layer I've done, and that creates depth. watercolor, it's very easy. You could go on and on, create layers and layers and build it up. It's up to you how far you want to take it. Give my pot here a nice base layer. Find my darkest darks. For the dirt texture, I'm just using the tip of the paintbrush. And the soil is pretty dark, so I'm going to do a mixture of brown and this blue to get this dark, dark color. That's all for today. Thank you guys for joining me. We'll see you next time.